Everyone outside is waiting for one thing: blood. You are 15 years old. You think tonight will mark the beginning of your life as Rome's newest queen. Instead, you are led into a chamber where hundreds of people are waiting for something you don't yet understand. Outside, servants press their ears against the door. They don't care whether you're afraid. They only care what happens next. To witness, to verify, to judge. No one tells you why a spotless white linen sheet has already been stretched across the bed. No one explains why the chamber was built, with hidden openings inside its walls. And no one warns you that by sunrise, strangers may decide whether your marriage is legitimate or whether your life has already begun to unravel. In a few minutes, you'll understand why that white sheet mattered more than your wedding vows. You'll understand why Roman brides feared this night more than death itself. And you'll understand why one of history's greatest empires turned marriage into a public trial. This isn't fiction. This was marriage in imperial Rome. A ritual so deeply woven into law, medicine, and tradition that generations accepted it without question. The year is 23 AD. Before we uncover what truly happened behind those palace doors, tell me where you're watching from. It's remarkable that stories buried beneath nearly 2,000 years of history can still reach people across the world today. Leave your country or city in the comments below. High above Rome on the Palatine Hill rises the imperial palace, where marriage has become an instrument of government and intimacy has been transformed into a public affair. The frightened young woman waiting inside is far more than a bride. She wears the title of queen, yet in reality, she is a political asset, and tonight, an object under examination. Her name survives only in scattered references. Tacitus mentions her briefly. Suetonius passes over her in only a few lines. Yet the fear she endured lives on through letters, medical writings, and the harsh realities embedded within Roman law itself. Everything about to happen in that room had the full weight of tradition behind it. Priests blessed it, laws protected it, generations accepted it. The Roman Empire viewed a woman's body as something to be verified, conquered, and tested. How did one of history's most advanced civilizations create wedding customs that resembled torture? How did queens' women dressed in purple robes, surrounded by servants, dining from golden plates, become prisoners on the very night meant to celebrate their rise? The chamber door shuts. Outside, no one leaves. To understand Roman royal weddings, one fact matters above all else. They were never created for the happiness of the bride and groom. Every stage of the ceremony, from the evening rituals to the procession through the forum and finally to the bridal chamber, served as public theatre. The empire wasn't celebrating love. It was displaying authority over its most precious resource, legitimate bloodlines. Among Rome's elite, marriage was never simply a union between two people. It was a political contract. A young woman's fertility became collateral. Her virginity became currency. Even the consummation itself was treated as an official transaction that required verification before the marriage could truly be accepted. Most brides were between 13 and 16 years old. Older women whispered warnings. Midwives offered vague, unsettling advice, yet no one explained exactly what awaited them. Instead, they were taught something far more terrifying: what would happen if they failed. Eventually, the groom entered the chamber. Often, he was decades older than the girl he was about to marry, but the audience surrounding him extended far beyond those gathered outside the door. Roman architects appear to have incorporated something deeply unsettling into many elite residences: surveillance. Archaeological excavations of wealthy Roman homes have revealed narrow wall passages, concealed openings hidden behind decorative panels, and alcoves positioned in ways that suggest carefully designed observation points. These features were not intended for security alone. They allowed others to witness what happened inside, because a royal wedding night was never considered entirely private. It was a political event that demanded confirmation from the family, from the state, and from the gods believed to bless the union. She could hear breathing beyond the walls. Yet the unseen observers were not the most frightening part. The real terror rested on the bed itself. Across the mattress lay an expensive sheet of spotless white linen. It had been placed there for one purpose alone: evidence. Known as the linteman, or proof sheet, it carried greater importance than the marriage contract itself under Roman law. Particularly after Augustus introduced the Lex Julia, sexual purity became a matter of legal expectation rather than private assumption. Virginity was not simply believed, it had to be proven. Medical writers of the era, including works attributed to Soranus of Ephesus, described the bleeding expected after first intercourse as evidence that the hymenal seal had remained intact. Their language remained detached. The reality was anything but. At dawn, experienced midwives would inspect the sheet. They examined its colour, its quantity, its placement. Some accounts even describe them smelling, or at times tasting, the stains to distinguish virginal blood from menstrual blood or from any other substance a desperate bride might have used to deceive them. If the evidence satisfied those inspecting it, the sheet became proof that the marriage was legitimate and that the family's honour remained intact. It could be displayed from balconies, carried through the household, or even shown publicly within the neighbourhood. Failure carried devastating consequences. Too little blood, no blood at all, or blood that appeared suspicious. Any of these could lead to immediate disgrace. A bride might face divorce, public humiliation, accusations of prior sexual misconduct, exile, enslavement, or even execution. What makes this even more disturbing is what modern medicine now understands. Gynecology has shown that nearly half of all women experience no bleeding during their first intercourse. The hymen differs naturally from woman to woman. Some are highly elastic, some are extremely thin. Some women are born without one altogether. Exercise, medical conditions, anatomy, and countless other factors all influence whether bleeding occurs. Roman physicians either did not understand these biological realities or ignored them completely. Because the blood itself was never the real objective, control was. It served as a reminder that once a woman entered marriage, her body no longer belonged to her. It became evidence, property, something to be examined and approved. Faced with that reality, some queens found only one way to survive. They wounded themselves. Inventories from elite Roman households list unusual objects among bridal possessions. Small bronze pins, delicate blades described as cosmetic tools, and containers holding sheep's blood or red dye. These were not beauty accessories, they were insurance. To survive, some women resorted to desperate measures. They pierced their own skin, cut the inside of their thighs, or stained the linen with animal blood, doing whatever was necessary to produce the evidence the examiners expected to find. Physical pain was a far easier price to pay than the public disgrace awaiting any bride who failed the test. As shocking as this may sound today, the underlying idea survived for centuries. Variations of virginity testing remained practiced in parts of the world well into the 20th century, all based on the same belief that a woman's own testimony about her body could never be trusted. Proof had to be extracted, yet even when the linen was stained, even when the examination was passed, the nightmare had only begun. Roman wedding ceremonies included a ritual known as the raptio, a dramatic reenactment of one of Rome's most famous founding legends, the abduction of the Sabine women. According to tradition, the early Romans lacked wives of their own. They invited the neighbouring Sabines to a festival, then violently seized their daughters and forced them into marriage. Rome never treated this story as a warning, it celebrated it. Artists painted it, poets glorified it. Eventually, it became woven into wedding tradition itself. During the ceremony, the bride was expected to flee, the groom chased her. She was expected to struggle, cry out, and resist while guests cheered from both sides, forming a living corridor as she was caught, lifted into the air, and carried across the threshold. It symbolized conquest. Her resistance wasn't interpreted as refusal, it was considered virtue. The more she struggled, the more modest and therefore valuable she appeared. But once the chamber door closed, the symbolism ended while its reality remained. From that moment forward, the husband possessed nearly unquestioned authority over his wife. Under the Roman legal concept known as manus marriage, a wife passed almost completely under her husband's control, much as children remained under the authority of their father. She effectively became part of his household property. He controlled where she went, who she met, how she lived. He could discipline her physically and claim access to her body whenever he wished. The Roman legal system recognized no crime equivalent to marital rape. Rape was understood primarily as an offense against another man's property or honor, making it legally impossible for a husband to violate what the law already considered his own. Letters from the period, together with later Christian critiques of pagan marriage customs, describe wedding nights that today would almost certainly be recognized as sexual assault. Young brides frozen with fear, others pleading for mercy, some begging for more time, only to be physically restrained. One particularly haunting account comes from a noblewoman who remembered hearing her younger sister crying through the walls while wedding guests outside joked about breaking in, a virgin, and even placed wagers on how long it would take. Today, psychologists might describe such experiences as conjugal assault carried out under conditions of captivity. The Romans called it simply marriage. And while all of this unfolded inside the chamber, the celebration outside continued. Roman weddings featured a tradition known as the epithalamium, songs performed outside the bridal room. These were anything but gentle. The lyrics were often crude, explicit, and deliberately humiliating. They described the acts taking place inside, mocked the bride's innocence, and shouted vulgar encouragements to the groom. Poets such as Catullus composed famous examples comparing the bride to a field waiting to be ploughed or a young filly waiting to be tamed. The singing often continued for hours. As wine flowed, the verses became louder, cruder, and more obscene. Some accounts even describe fresh groups of singers replacing exhausted performers, so the newlyweds were never granted a single moment of silence or privacy. The purpose went far beyond entertainment. It was psychological. By transforming the bride's most intimate and terrifying experience into public amusement, Roman society delivered a clear message. You are no longer an individual. You are a function. Your emotions matter less than your fertility. Your fear matters less than political alliances. Your body exists to fulfill the expectations of others. Yet even that wasn't the greatest burden resting on a queen's shoulders. The instant she crossed that threshold, another countdown quietly began. She was expected to become pregnant, and quickly, ideally within weeks, certainly within months. The future of the dynasty depended upon it. Political alliances depended upon it. The marriage itself was justified by it. But producing any child wasn't enough. She needed a son. Daughters could strengthen future alliances through marriage, but only a male heir secured the dynasty. Failure to conceive, repeated miscarriages, or giving birth only to daughters could lead to humiliation, accusations of barrenness, the dissolution of the marriage, exile, or even harsher consequences. The very next morning, palace physicians began watching. They questioned the queen, examined her body, looked for signs of conception, and prescribed strange treatments rooted in humoral medicine and sympathetic magic. Her meals changed. Pomegranates were believed to encourage fertility. Honey, mixed with milk, supposedly prepared the womb. Various herbs were administered, some harmless, others dangerously toxic. Her menstrual cycle became an object of relentless scrutiny. If her monthly bleeding arrived as expected, hope disappeared. If it failed to appear, anticipation grew, often ending in devastating disappointment. Ancient medicine understood reproduction very differently from today. Many physicians believed conception occurred when the man's seed overpowered the woman's natural moisture. Some even argued that a woman's thoughts during intercourse could shape the appearance and health of her unborn child. As a result, queens were blamed not only for infertility, but also for producing daughters instead of sons, weak heirs, or children born with physical abnormalities. The relentless pressure eventually became a crisis of its own. The wedding night was over, but its consequences had only just begun. Historical accounts describe royal women developing conditions we would now recognize as anxiety disorders, depression, eating disorders, and psychosomatic illnesses. The crushing